Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CBD Live Europe. I'm Roisin Delaney, the editor of Cannabis magazine, and very shortly we're going to start our next discussion with the co-founders of CanExchange. So if you just bear with us for the next couple of minutes, we will start very shortly. And we'll be talking to the co-founders of CanExchange. As I said, we're just going to give people an extra couple of minutes to join to view, basically. So just bear with us for a couple of minutes, please. All right. Okay. Good morning and welcome to CBD Live Europe. If you're just joining us, we are all about the business of cannabis today, talking about the CBD professional sector, talking about various different elements of the business sector and industry. Here with me now to discuss the importance of technology in unlocking the potential of cannabis as we move forward and the sector matures is Siegfried Leger and Alex Arkentis, who are the co-founders of CanExchange. Now, I want to talk to you both a lot about, where we kind of go from here, coming out of COVID and coming out of the pandemic. But could you please just kind of start maybe by telling us a little bit about CanExchange, what it is, and what its purpose is, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Good afternoon. Let's say good morning for everybody. It depends on the time zone where you're located in Europe, obviously. So my name is Siegfried Leger. I'm a co-founder of CanExchange, and I'm also acting as a chief financial officer for the company. So basically what CanExchange does, it actually facilitate and interconnect the physical market actors in the cannabis industry, whether it's for hemp or the medical business. But on top of being just, let's say, a directory to connect people, it also provides all sorts of ancillary services, such as a payment solution that goes through the traditional banking network. Where we can guarantee, the payment within the transaction between the buyer and the seller. Also, we provide laboratory analysis, certificate of analysis linked to this laboratory analysis, logistics services, and data analysis as well. And so the goal here basically is to really provide the similar infrastructure as any other agricultural commodity will have access to. And to give you, let's say, some sort of a background about the genesis of CanExchange, the idea there is basically we have a third co-founder, which is called George Popov, who is attending today in the audience. And coming back from, let's say, investment banking background, we could see that this cannabis market had a big potential and that was growing very fast. The only issue we saw with this market is the fact that it has the same characteristic as other agricultural markets, but they don't benefit from the same infrastructure. So given our experience in trading, finance, investment banking, and aligning ourselves with Alex Arkentis, who is from the technology world, we really see the opportunity of bringing a solution to really serve the industry and provide more secure transaction, more transparency, but also being able to provide trust, which is very important. And we provide trust by checking, every counterpart and making sure that we can bring legitimacy to this industry. So, in a nutshell, this is what CanExchange, and this is, let's say, how CanExchange came about. And after 18 months of development in system and also in terms of operating model, we got live last year in February 2020, a week or two before the actually full lockdown, let's say.
The timing is everything. And just to touch on something that you mentioned there, Siegfried, as well, you talk about coming from a very strong investment background and marrying that with the very strong technology background that Alex has as well. So Alex, how important is the technology element in the future of kind of the cannabis sector? Because it's not something that we hear an awful lot about when we're talking about, moving forward with CBD and medical cannabis and so on. Oh, you're on mute, Alex, sorry.
Sorry for that. So yeah, Rodri, you're right. Actually, I think, technology is just as fundamental in the cannabis industry as it is to many others. Almost impossible to be competitive or efficient in any market without it. Yes, you're right. We haven't seen much of, let's say, technology and innovation in the cannabis, CBD, THC, all the cannabis industry a lot. But we're starting to see lately a few new things coming out. I think is, because it's a new, let's say, a new industry that's coming out to light a lot compared to what it was before. Now we're going to start seeing more and more. Us and we started CanExchange, we've seen over the past 2.5 years a lot of new things coming up. I think it's definitely, it needs to be adapted, and we need to see more innovation from other companies. Look at, for example, COVID came in and it really changed a lot of things. So people had to, let's say, adapt and use technologies if they want to be competitive. Look at, for example, all the trade shows that were in place, and not all they vanished straight away. And we went into, different webinars, podcasts, and digital events like this. So yeah, I think you really need technology as in any other industry, and you need to use it the right way and the tools that you really need, not just using technology to say, I just use technology. And that's why, we built Canex at the end of the day. We saw a tremendous growth in terms of a lot of trades through our platform over the pandemic, because people couldn't meet in person, couldn't do the usual trades they did. So they needed new, let's say, avenues to source the product, sell the products. We've seen that with other places that they sell retail products of CBD and stuff. They had tremendous growth over the past year because everyone is going online and buying from there since they cannot go to physical stores. So yes, I think it needs to be adapted, and I think we'll see a lot of more innovation in this industry as it grows. And we're going to bring a lot of more, let's say, tech background people coming into it and trying to serve this industry.
Do you think part of that role that technology has to play, part of why that's such a big kind of factor and why we're going, to rely on digital selling platforms, e-commerce and stuff, do you think that has come from COVID and the pandemic in some way? Because it's changed the way we shop, it's changed the way we buy things.
Yes, I don't think it came only from COVID, because it came in general, because as people besides the cannabis industry, we've come the past 20 years, everyone has gone on to online shopping, digital shopping, this and that. So definitely the movement of technology helped. But of course, I think the pandemic really pushed people to go even a step further and actually use these technologies. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to survive, unfortunately. So definitely played a very big role.
And it's so convenient as well to buy something on Amazon or buy something off a website, and you could have it the next day. So it's so convenient, really, isn't it? Siegfried, if I could come to you next and just ask you about the, maintaining the kind of, I suppose, human aspect of the community, because it is a very close-knit community. Everyone knows each other in the kind of cannabis sector. And from the point of view of the consumer as well, how do we maintain that kind of human aspect of the cannabis community as a whole?
So to answer to that question, first, it's important for us to make a statement. Technology never replaces the human interaction. Of course, it assists to fasten the process on many aspects in any type of businesses. But the way we see it on our side is the fact that technology is a tool that we use. It's serving us as, let's say, human in our business interaction, but it's not replacing us, let's say. What I want to mention about that is the fact that, for example, at CanExchange, what we see is we put in place a technology, we try to put top-notch services through this technology, but we also have teams of people that keep interacting and discussing with customers to make sure that the human link and the human relationship is still there. We don't want just to have a system, click on it, and this is you deal with that. Our approach is very different, and we've seen that. Obviously, for some type of consumer businesses, I understand it can be a bit different. When you deal, especially in the B2B sector, you can see, and we've seen that in investment banking, the fact that you can have all the systems, all the algorithm you can imagine, there's still this human interaction, which is important. But at the same time, the technology helps people to go faster, to have a better recording of what they do, a better audit of what they do, and they can be more efficient. So this is on that aspect. We see that, and obviously for us, which is very important, and that's why also today we are here and we are participating to this kind of events of webinar, is to be part of the community, and we try to discuss as much as we can to the cannabis industry and community in general.
Because I think maybe something that we get more from a face-to-face approach is creativity and being able to discuss ideas and throw things out there and kind of brainstorm and pitching people as well. Like that all comes from face-to-face interaction, which I think has really been missed during the pandemic as well.
Yes, no, you're totally right, and it's true when you want to deal with new partners, with customers, but also with the people you work with. The creativity it's a slightly different approach, because when you are on a day-to-day basis, physically next to each other with people, you tend to interact, whether it's on a professional level, but also on a personal level as well. You are missing maybe the political aspect that can exist within the company, but which helps the company to be more functional, let's say. And definitely this is the human link and human aspect that we are missing. But I think everyone, every type of companies or any customer will try to make it up for it.
Yeah, and I think people have really responded well to events like this, virtual events, virtual conferencing. It's great that we can see each other in real time and talk to people so conveniently. Like, we probably talk to people more now than we did beforehand. So I think that's been one great benefit of the last year. Silver linings. Alex, how quick and easy will it be for our industry, based on your experience? How quick and easy will it be for our industry, the cannabis sector, to implement those key technologies which are missing so far?
That's a good question, actually, Ronnie. I mean, because we're relatively a new industry with little infrastructure in place, there aren't many practices in place that need to change. And actually, that's a quick opportunity to catch up and integrate technology. And you have, let's say, less layers and gears, so make the whole process faster to integrate technology. They're not like huge corporations out there that they introduce a new CRM system or SAP and Oracle system that very heavy to implement and time consuming. So in our case, it's much easier, and I think it's a good opportunity for people now to catch up with technology, but by implementing the right technologies that work for them. And that's exactly why we create CanExchange. We recognize the lack of infrastructure and how it could be introduced with innovative and mainly user-friendly technology that ultimately will add value, because at the end of the day we try, people need to adapt to it, and it needs to be easy for them to use it, because at the end of the day technology is here to help you, not make your life more difficult. So yeah, I think it's not as other industries who are more involved that they will need to, let's say, replace or copy the existing processes by technology. Here's the opportunity to create things from scratch. And yeah, I think it's a good opportunity in the time being to look for everyone to look in different technologies they can use and always be up to date to implement them in order for them to be more efficient in the long run.
Yeah, and I just had a thought on that question as well. For companies to look at what they might be missing. How do you, is there a way that you would recommend for CBD companies in particular to kind of look at what they might be missing or look what they might be able to do better using technology? One thing that comes to my mind is, like payment processing systems and the trouble that people have had with payment gateways around CBD kind of products. So how would you recommend people kind of approach, evaluating what infrastructure they need?
I mean, that's very different from company to company. I think the first way you'll have to go about is, first of all, understand where, let's say, what you're suffering from and where your problems are. And then by tapping into these problems, trying to find what solution exists in order to help you with that. As you said very well, for example, if you want to do sales online and you want to sell your product, obviously look at joining online commercial platforms that exist that, similar to Amazon, but for CBD and stuff like that. If you want, for example, when it comes to the trade, for example, it's kind of companies like ourselves and exchange or other companies that you can use in order to trade through these platforms, since you cannot go to people face to face. As we mentioned, payment is a very important thing, which actually we happen to be very fortunate to have a payment solution for this industry. And we recognize this issue, and that's why we came up with the idea, because at the end of the day, it's all about, using technology to help you with something that doesn't exist and make your life easier. So I think it's, the key thing is to, first of all, see where your issues are and what problems you're facing, and then look one by one and see what technology exists out there. There are so many that I've seen, for example, you can look at inventory management systems, online shops, all sorts of different technology can implement. It's all about what your company really needs and what are your key pain points, and taking this approach and looking at how technology can help you. Because if you overdo it, it might actually not help you, but drag you back. So you need to be careful in seeing what's my problem and does a solution exist for it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really good advice. And I suppose we're talking here about like essential spending in order to invest in your future as well. It's not like a luxury item or anything like that. It's crucial to your success this day and age, especially if you're a CBD brand and it's so competitive right now for brands, as we know. Can I ask you as well, what key technologies are missing? What do you think is missing in the industry and the areas and the current issues that we've just spoken about?
I mean, there are so many technologies that can be implemented. It's about, again, as I said, being smart, using the ones that are relevant to your business. And they also need to be cost efficient as well. You don't want to be overspending using different technology. You need to be kind of smart of what do I need at the moment to be more competitive and using it accordingly, and not about competitive, but as well being more efficient. And basically what will help you to go to the next level, because the whole thing is, as you said previously, investing in new technologies in order for you to achieve, let's say, bigger business, bigger sales, bigger growth, etc. in the future. And there's a lot of, regarding these areas, current issues that can unlock is economy of scale, efficiency, asset no result, access to bigger networks. So there is quite a lot of stuff out there, which I've seen. I've seen like some interesting, inventory management, again, trading platforms. You see C2C solutions, traceability is a big thing that's coming up all over the world that they use in other agricultural products. So it's all about understanding where you want to be, what you want to position, and act accordingly and choose the right, let's say, technologies that will help you be more competitive and efficient in the long run.
Siegfried, thank you, Alex. Siegfried, I want to come to you next and talk to you about something that we've spoken about, earlier as well. That I think you mentioned it in one of your earlier answers. It's also something that I asked you guys to give me a quote for a recent article on the London Stock Exchange developments as well, where cannabis is concerned. And it's about credibility, security, and legitimacy within the industry. So we know the industry has lacked credibility to a certain extent, just like many sectors do when they're in their first infant kind of years, right? This has kind of put big players off maybe from entering the CBD market in particular. So how can we address this going forward? And what can we do as professionals? What can we do individually within our own organizations? And what can we do together as the legal cannabis sector in Europe to give the kind of the name, if you like, more security, more legitimacy, and more credibility? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, Siegfried.
Sorry, this mute.
There you
go. So I think what everyone in the audience we agree with is the fact that if we are all in this industry because we see a big opportunity with this industry and we want this industry to grow and thrive, actually. But to be able to do that as well, what we have to take into consideration is this is us, us, people from the industry, right? Who is going to make it thrive? It's not us waiting for someone who's going to help us to make it happen. So what's very important here is the fact that if we want to grow and to thrive as an industry, we need to be compliant. We need to show credibility. We need to show also professionalism, and we need also to show the fact that other stakeholders can trust us. And for this, which is very important, what you need to do in place, especially with technology, is the fact that you need to bring ways for people, and especially I'm talking about regulators, I'm talking about big companies that are interested to enter to this business. We have to be able to show them audits. We have to be able to show them quality management. We have to be able to show them traceability of what is being done, or the product that are being manufactured and how they are manufactured. Also, what's very important is the fact that we need to demonstrate that actually we can comply with international standards that are used in any other agricultural industry. And this is what we're trying to achieve. And I know other people are also working very hard in this industry to achieve that goal. At CanExchange, what we want is to provide the infrastructure where people can rely on and can use to be able to, to answer to this, big question mark of credibility and security. So I think we see a lot of progress for sure, because even us starting to look at this industry 3 years ago now, we've seen a massive progress in terms of transparency, in terms of willing of going the extra mile. We see also more people committing more capital because they trust more and more the industry as well, which is a good sign as well. But there's still a long way ahead, and especially on the regulatory side. And, whether it's at the European level or sometimes it's at country level as well, there's a lot of local or international cannabis association that do a very strong lobbying and that work a lot on that aspect. So yes, I think technology can assist to reach that goal, but also we need, like we mentioned, human factor is important, and we also need all to work together and push the human factor on that aspect.
I just want to ask you kind of a follow-up question to that, and feel free to take it, either one of you. We're talking as well about kind of the maturity of the industry, and you spoke about thinking back to 3 years ago of CBD and medical cannabis in Europe. We're now starting to see a trend where we're having kind of North American companies coming into Europe and acquiring kind of some smaller kind of UK specific or European specific kind of companies in the CBD sector and the medical cannabis space. So are we starting to see kind of the big companies come in now? Is it enticing to kind of big brands now as a European kind of sector. Is that what we're kind of seeing happen as a trend, do you think?
So I think like every business, there is always cycle. You have the genesis of a business, then you have fast growth, then you start to have, obviously, when it comes to fast growth, the initial, let's say, behavior of the market is you have a bubble popping up. So meaning that everybody is jumping in the trend, and obviously people that provide a good service and a good product as well are able to survive. And let's say the ones that just wanted to be part of the business and grab quickly, some proceeds from this business usually tend to disappear. Now we entered in the, let's say, the phase in the market where the cleaning part has happened. So especially the fact that regulations are changing, especially with that in the UK with novel food as an example. So obviously the required investments are a bit more important to enter this market. So now you start to see a stabilization in terms of who can be considered as a serious company and who is not a serious company. And this is actually the moment where you start to see all these Northern American companies that has been established for way longer and see the opportunity in Europe to grab, interesting companies, whether directly investing in a company or purchasing them or, merging with them. But I think that's the natural cycle of any new industry that start to grow and then develops and then start to, let's say, reach his cruise speed, let's say. So yes, we're going to see more and more of these companies being looked after, especially from Canadian and American companies in Europe.
Great, thank you for that. So I'm going to open it up to some questions from our audience now, and I have some in front of me. This one is might be one for Alex, actually. It says, outside of an exchange platform, what technology do you think is most important to develop in the cannabis industry?
That's a good question. I mean, it's hard always to say which, it's hard to say, but I think, from what I've seen that people are working on and what it's missing, let's say, one which I really like is, creating different inventory solutions for, for the people who are in the farming, processing, extracting, etc., which you need a bit more, let's say, innovation and be a bit more efficient. And this is definitely a technology which I think needs to be explored in deeper and absorbed by a lot of people. And I think as well, a lot of people are looking at it at the moment, which I mentioned before, seed to sale solutions, maybe using blockchain, maybe not using blockchain. You see that in other agricultural products, and I think it's very important because the way that our world is moving to, everyone wants to know where they're sourcing from, is it sustainable, is it not? So I think this kind of technology will really help, and especially if you go into, let's say, consumer end products, such as stuff that they sell for food and things like that, they will really need that. And these are the main two I can think of, which I think will be very interesting. And as well, you can go in more as well into hardware solutions for all the cannabis business, for example, on the spot testing for the product instead of having to wait and send over to the to the laboratory to get COA analysis. I've heard about a new product that's come out, a machine where you can test on the spot your product there and get a, let's say, COA analysis kind of instantly. I think that will help a lot in this industry going forward. So I think both and software and hardware wise, you'll see a lot of new technologies coming out, and that will be very useful for it.
Great. Yeah, I feel like we're about to see a lot develop in the next year or so in particular. And we've got a question here from a Neil Cartwright. Do you offer API or integration so other platforms can connect?
We're working on it at the moment, actually. We do have it, yes. And our aim is to do that and actually be able to connect to many different, let's say, avenues by using our API, either to service providers, either to other partners, platforms, etc., etc. So yes, we're working on it at the moment.
Great. Okay. We've got a couple of questions here from Henning. Henning asks, can you elaborate on security needs in international transports within the industry?
What is the question exactly? Sorry.
Henning says, so he's actually, it's in two parts really. He says, what do you recommend to avoid attacks such as cybercrime? Can you elaborate on security needs in international transports within the industry?
Yeah, okay. That's actually two different questions, but in terms of cybercrime, let's say, I think there are standards in terms of technology development that applies to every technology companies. First of all, it's all about how you develop your systems and how your systems are also protected. It's all about gateways and how let's say, the people coming from the web can access your platform. Usually, to be able to do that, you have to have firewalls, and you use also a mirror to avoid, let's say, your technology being directly exposed to the internet. Also, what's very important, like any technology company, you organize penetration tests where you have specialized hacking company who are actually testing all the potential vulnerability of your businesses. And this is something we do several times a year on our side. And also what's very important as well is to be able to segregate how your database is built, so you don't mix, for example, the system with the customer's data with the backend, for example. And you also have the possibility to organize the way you actually store this data and how you can encrypt it. So yeah, in terms of cybersecurity, probably the best approach is to use the common practice that any technology company is using. And the second part of the question was, can you elaborate on it?
On security needs in international transports within the industry.
To be honest, that's quite a complex question. If I'm honest with that, I need to think a bit more about it. Personally, yeah, I will need to.
Maybe Henning can get in touch with you, and you can.
Yes, probably. How about Alex? Do you have any opinion on that?
I mean, as you said, the difficult question as well. You need to see like what sort of security international transport are talking about, like from where to where, and what exactly means security international transfers. I mean, is it someone, I don't know, hijacking the truck, bringing the stuff from US to Europe? Yes, you can have insurance in place and things like that, which we are actually quite working on. Or if the security can have a natural disaster, let's say the product being transferred, which comes down with your thinking. Yes, there is ways around it, but I would understand a bit more. Let's say it's quite vague, the question, in terms of what security would be in place.
Yeah, it's probably more pertinent to logistics and the technology of tracking. Logistics is what
if I may, on that aspect, in terms of logistic safety, I know it depends on the value of the products as well. I know for the hemp industry, it's never been too much of a concern, but I know especially for the medical cannabis side, companies that usually are involved also in collecting money in banks and filling ATMs, these kind of companies. Usually they are the ones that are looking, at least in Europe, looking at transporting this kind of let's say very valuable and sensitive goods.
Mm-hmm. We actually just got another question in on the topic of security, which seems to be very topical today. So I think it's referring to something that you mentioned, Alex, in one of your answers earlier. You mentioned you should follow company practices. How do we use blockchain?
It really depends. Blockchain can be used in many different ways, and it has many different, let's say, pros and cons. It really depends what you want to use it for. I mean, it has a lot of, general, let's say, benefits by using it, such as, being using a system where you can trace every change made all the way back and be able to see all changes that have been made there. So as well as you cannot hack it, let's say, or if it's hacked, you can really see what's been done there. But that's really how do you use it? Because on the other side as well, it's very slow technology. So if you're using it for something that requires, let's say, a lot of back and forth, maybe it's not really the case for it. It really depends where you want to use it. I mean, the only place I've seen that they use it at the moment is, as I said before, some seed-to-sale solution, which is for traceability, where they can go all the way back and see where this plant was planted, what procedures was followed by whom and stuff. But that's okay. But other things, I think, because we are looking at it to implement in our platform for trading, but in the trading environment, which you have a bit more, let's say, consistency going back and forth, it's kind of slow. So you really need to see what you want to use it for and look at the benefits and the cons of it, and then make a decision, yes, this technology is for me or it's not.
And if I may add on that, if you really want to have a real integrated blockchain solution, because you don't have that many very good talent on the market to, let's say, develop this kind of technologies, it could be a very expensive investment as well. So maybe for our business in general, I'm talking about the industry, we should wait for the technology to be a bit more mainstream before to 100% look at the blockchain solutions.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. We have one more question here. I think it is more about the medical industry. So can you elaborate on the need for predictive risk analysis tools in the medical industry space with regards to GDP temperature control requirements along the supply chain? Maybe more so for logistics again, but I don't know if either of you have anything to say with regards to temperature control requirements and such.
Well, on our side, our involvement is in logistics in general is to assist our customer to explore and find routes to transport their goods. So let's say this is our involvement in general for logistics. Now, in terms of, let's say, the technical aspect of logistics, I don't think necessarily the best person to ask this question, but I'm sure there's a lot of logistic companies that, are acting in this business, and they may know if this is something they need. Does it make sense for them to, let's say, spend on this kind of technology? Does it bring any added value for the customer in general? I don't think we have enough knowledge to be able to assess that aspect, to be honest.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I think we're just about ready to wrap it up. Thank you to everybody who submitted some questions for Alex and Siegfried. And thank you to both of you for taking the time out to be participants in our auditorium today. It's been a really insightful chat. I've definitely learned a lot in our half an hour talk. And also, I should point out that if anyone would like to get in touch with CanExchange, you can do so in the virtual exhibition hall via their virtual booth in the CBD Live Hall, or you can direct message anyone from the team who is online today. Thank you, Siegfried Leger and Alex Arpentis, co-founders of CanExchange, and we hope you have a really great event for the rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Roisin. Thank you very much to the audience.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.